When I was an 8-year-old boy, I saw a game sitting on my dad's nightstand. I asked him what it was because it looked really cool. There were like all these people hanging out on the cover with an alien, and the text on the back said, "A new way to play with life." That game? The Sims 2 for the PlayStation 2. I was intrigued. I asked my dad if I could play it, but he said that he was planning on trading it to GameStop soon. My man, it's a game where you play with life. You mean there are better games? Needless to say, I had to know more. I asked my dad if I could have the game instead of him trading it in, and that's when something really special happened in my life, because that is when I became a simmer.
Oh, let's go! That's class!
A while back I posted a video about farming games, and that got me thinking, why do people enjoy slow-paced games so much? The kind of games where you just kinda live. No real combat, not a whole lot of adventure, not much of, well, anything that people would normally think video games should be. Computer software legend Will Wright is the man behind numerous classic simulation games, including The Sims. When Wright created The Sims, he had originally set out to create an architectural and interior design-based game. For this project, he took inspiration from a very personal experience of his. After losing his home to a wildfire in 1991, he was tasked with completely furnishing a brand new home from scratch. He recalled feeling surprisingly optimistic about this whole ordeal, and decided to replicate the experience in his new game. So his next game was going to be all about architecture and interior design, but something was missing. The people. It was time to bring life into the project. Wright began designing playable characters who could live in the homes that the players built, and thus, the Sims franchise was born. In The Sims, the player is not asked to do very much. It's not a game you can beat, per se. When you start a new game, you spend an hour or two creating your new Sim, or maybe even a family of them, and then you select a house within your budget. Once you move in, you focus on finding a career, climbing the ladder, making friends, exploring romance, and ultimately accomplishing all of your Sim's wildest dreams. It's a game where you just live your life. But why do we enjoy this? Why do we play games all about doing chores and work, when video games themselves are meant to be an escape from chores and work? The Sims is the quintessential simulation game. And just like any simulation game, it's a playground with no real goal in mind other than to just enjoy the task at hand. There's no right or wrong way to play The Sims. You can work your way up the ladder in a career, or use your Sims like little dolls to tell stories. Complete a fun challenge like the 100 Baby Challenge. Trap your Sims in a room with no doors, a cheap stovetop, and a plethora of flammable objects. Why? Why do people do this? Why is this popular? Yeah, the Sims is just like any other simulation title. In The Sims, you improve your life however you want. In Gas Station Simulator, you run your gas station however you want. In WWE 2K23, you run your wrestling show however you want. Freedom is what draws us to simulation games. No matter what task the game assigns to us, we are always free to accomplish it any way we want to. But I don't think freedom is the main component of play here. I mean, yeah, it's fun to get creative and work through a game's problems in unique ways, but I think there exists a deeper element in the game's appeal. It's important to note that most of the world's most popular simulation games lack a certain degree of hyper-realism. They're realistic by design, of course. I mean, they're meant to be a simulation of a real-life task. But the ones that really take off are never perfect replications of their real-life reference material. When you play a game like Roller Coaster Tycoon, for example, you definitely need to manage your finances, ensure the safety of the guests, and create a theme park worthy of lots of praise. But what about a human resources department? Or employee insurance benefits? Where are the staff offices in the park? What about the storage buildings for all the many pieces of lawn care equipment surely needed to keep the park looking so nice? I mean, I could go all day, and that's just this game. When you put any simulation game under a microscope and analyze exactly how realistic it is, you'll find 9 times out of 10, it's still a game first. The realism comes afterwards. Being a fun game is still by far the primary motivation. Instead, what we get is an idealized version of the task being simulated. It's been gamified. A truly 100% ultra-realistic simulation game would quickly become tedious for the vast majority of players. You may be playing a game about running your own cafe, for example, but you don't have to worry about every minute responsibility that a real cafe owner might face. This allows for a real sense of immersion, because now the player only has to worry about the good stuff, the fun stuff, the aspects of the job that are really exciting. The aspects that make the player stop and say, wow, look at me, I'm really doing this. It's just like when we used to play pretend as kids. Now personally, I liked to pretend that I was an archaeologist in search of unknown treasures. Basically, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. But was I concerned with the many hours of strenuous work and labor that real archaeologists have to go through to make their jobs happen? Of course not! I was too busy with trying to figure out what was at the end of the creek in my backyard, because I knew that there was some treasure behind that tall grass, but I wasn't allowed to go in it, but I knew that something was there. When a kid plays The Sims, they can be anybody that they want to be. And when an adult plays The Sims, they can be anybody that they want to be, even if that's just an idealized version of themselves. Remove the additional boring parts of the whole being a human thing. You never have to actually sit down and write a check in The Sims. You never have to wash your hands or brush your teeth. You never have to wait in traffic or run to the store. You can instead focus your efforts on building skills, indulging hobbies, boosting your career, and all of that other fun stuff. The Sims in particular is a very interesting simulation game because of the underlying motivations in the game's appeal. When someone simulates running a farm or a hospital, they are searching for a fun new experience, maybe one that they have never and likely will never face in reality. But in The Sims, there is no such big task to seek out. Instead, the objective here is exactly the same as it is in our real lives. We want to improve ourselves. Have the best job, have the best house, the best car, find that one true soulmate, etc. And this is no different in The Sims. Because of this, The Sims has become a favorite of people who want to live out an idealized version of their own lives. Let's look at one of the main aspects of The Sims gameplay experience. Much of the gameplay loop is spent doing chores around the house. I mean, yeah, sure, you can hire a maid for pretty cheap to take care of all your cleaning, but what about cooking, or finishing homework, or completing take-home tasks from your job? Or maybe your Sim doesn't have a maid, and instead they are individually responsible for doing the dishes and taking out the trash themselves. These things are what occupy a Sim's daily schedule. The rest of the gameplay is spent chasing relationships and leveling up skills and career tiers. But at the end of the day, the gameplay always comes back to doing your Sim's chores. It's a core feature. The Sims would not be complete if not for menial tasks which serve no real purpose except to force your Sim to work towards a happy and healthy environment. So if chores are such a big part of the game, then there must be some reason that the game's massive player base keeps coming back for more. What is it about a simulation of chores that is so fun? Why do so many people keep coming back? One idea worth mentioning is that some people actually enjoy chores. They find them invigorating. And I'm talking about real life here too. In an article from Psychology Today titled 8 Surprising Benefits of Routine Daily Tasks, author Meg Selig cites some clinically proven reasons that many people may enjoy doing chores. One of the reasons she mentions is the idea that marking things off of your to-do list is a deeply gratifying experience, one that people can become attached to, thus latching onto their chores as a way to maintain a sense of control and preparedness. This is proven to have many positive side effects for people, particularly an increase in self-confidence. Maintaining a steady hold on one's smaller responsibilities is proven to benefit mental health. If things are well under control, we are more prepared to take on any new potential stressors. Time spent doing chores for a lot of people is described as a time of mental rest, or me time. Despite the way that we usually think about it, housework plays a vital role in our daily lives. For one, it is unavoidable. We have no choice but to put at least some effort into maintaining the cleanliness of ourselves and our surroundings. But secondly, chores allow us to take some time to regroup. We can take a break from the more demanding tasks of the day and instead focus our energy on something easy and that doesn't require much thought. Chores are good for us, mind, body, and soul. So then what's the deal? If chores are so good for us, then why do so many people hate the thought of doing them? And more importantly, why would people want to replicate that in a video game and do it even more, even in their free time? While chores are absolutely incredible for your well-being, I'm sure pretty much every single person on the planet can relate to the thought of, man, I just don't want to do this. I don't feel like doing my chores today. I'll do them tomorrow. I mean, believe you me, buddy, I experience that feeling all the time. Oftentimes, chores just feel too daunting to take on in the current moment. It's like exercise. We all know that exercise is a great thing to do for our bodies, and that we most likely won't regret doing it by the time that we're done. But there's always that lingering feeling of hesitation. It would be good for me, but I really would rather just not do it. Chores are the same way. And this is where games like The Sims come into play. Now, imagine something with me. You get home from work and you're exhausted. You look in the kitchen and you see you forgot about the pile of dishes in the sink. You know that you'll be happier in the long run if you just take 20 minutes and knock them out. It will likely even be a soothing experience, a chance to unwind and take in the events of the day. But wouldn't you rather collapse on the couch and watch YouTube? Or maybe play your favorite game, The Sims? Now you've got your favorite life simulation game open, and your virtual world is so nice and clean. Your house is in pristine condition, and even if your sim does make a mess, it can all be cleaned up at the press of a button. Look how productive this sim is. They just cleaned the whole kitchen, and now they can go work on the novel they've been writing. Yeah, you, the player, still have a ton of dishes left in the kitchen to get to, but worry about that later. It's time to move on to more interesting tasks like painting or practicing your stand-up comedy routine. And that's where a large part of the appeal comes from. Very powerful wish fulfillment tool. The scenario I just gave you is one of endless possibilities. But what it really boils down to is the event of a player deciding that the Sims world is more interesting and more fun than their own world. And trust me, this feeling can get very, very intense. Wish fulfillment is key to the appeal of The Sims. Being able to assume the role of anyone is an especially tempting idea. There's a plethora of sources and studies that agree that the number of people in the recorded population of the world who suffer from low self-esteem is around 85%. 85%, that's not just the population of a certain city or even country, that's the entire world. Needless to say, there are a lot of people out there who might find the concept of turning their brain off and simulating the life and identity of a separate, fictionalized version of themselves to be very appealing. Take, for example, this guy. His name is Steve. Now, Steve is a minimum wage fast food worker, and he, for the most part, enjoys his job. But here's the thing. His self-confidence is incredibly low. He wishes he could work up the nerve to put himself out there. He dreams of one day becoming a chef at a nice restaurant. He dreams of finding true love. He wants more from his life. But he can't seem to make these things happen. They're just too far out of reach for him. When Steve gets home each night, he puts on some comfy clothes, grabs his favorite snack, and sits down on the couch to play his favorite game, The Sims. He plays through about 3 or 4 days of his favorite save. Here, Steve owns a restaurant and he has plenty of simoleons to spare. He doesn't have to worry about much so long as he gets to work on time. When he's home, he gets to spend time with his lovely wife and 2 kids, and sometimes the shower breaks, but he can easily pay for that and have it repaired in seconds. In The Sims, Steve is the man. He's got it all. Why wouldn't Steve want to play The Sims? Sure, he has to do chores and work on his skills and maintain his relationships in the game, but this is kind of what Steve has always wanted out of his life. To be clear, I'm not trying to say that every single person who plays The Sims is just like Steve. He's a sort of exaggerated example. But I am saying that there's at least a little bit of Steve in just about everybody who plays the game. I mean, sure, you have the people who just want to build cool things, or tell stories, or mess around with the game's mechanics, but for most people, living in a virtual life is why they play the game. Like I said, it's a game where you can be anyone. It doesn't matter who you are in the real world, because you can change all of that in a digital space. Become a famous author, game designer, comedian, business tycoon, political leader, or anything else that you could possibly think of. And don't even get me started on the world of possibilities that open up once you bring mods into the equation. And after you've had your fill of one digital life, you can just open a new save and start another. Or you could move on to another generation of your current save, and this time play it completely differently. The Sims can be an endless loop of artificially fulfilled dreams. Explore every possibility, and accomplish everything you've ever wanted to accomplish. And never stop doing it. To some extent, it can almost feel like the goings-on in your real life don't matter so much, because in The Sims, you can always make things be exactly as you'd like them to be. This is the ultimate comfort. No matter how stressful your life may be in any given moment, The Sims is always there to help you find an escape. It is the escapist game. I can speak on this from experience a little bit, because I have spent my life as a very dedicated Sims fan. You know, it goes all the way back to sitting in my grandpa's computer room playing The Sims 2 on his Windows XP computer. And from that point on, the game has followed me my entire life. When I was a kid, I felt like I could escape from the constant restraint that many kids feel. I could pretend to be an adult with my own rules, my own car, my own house. I could do anything I wanted. As a teenager, I began to play the game as an escape from the many social pressures of middle and high school. All of the insecurities that come with that age could be corrected, so to speak, even just for a little bit, if I just made my ideal self in the game and had him become a rock star or something. In college, I developed a troublesome little habit of booting the game up for about 30 minutes before each homework session, only to look up at the clock just a few minutes later, and suddenly 3 hours had passed and I had not started on my research paper. There's also a common experience that many players share, including myself, where you get so involved in The Sims that you start to neglect your own personal physical needs because you're too busy taking care of your Sims' physical needs. I mean, on more than one occasion, I can admit that I've ignored my own hunger pangs after having not eaten all day because I was playing The Sims, because I was still playing The Sims. I had to feed my Sim so that he could get back to what he was doing. This is some bizarre behavior, to say the least, and it almost seems to counteract the famous Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This basically is the idea that we have to satisfy our very important physical needs like sleep and hunger and all that good stuff before we can even begin to worry about things like entertainment or self-esteem. But what we also need to remember is that this is normal. Escapism, even to this degree, is an inherent part of the human experience. It's simply human nature. It's why we have weekends and go on vacations. People naturally need a break from the typical reality of their situation. The trouble here is not in the game's accommodation of our escapist needs, but rather in how effectively it keeps the player's attention. The Sims is an addictive game, to say the least, and I know that I personally have spent entire days in the past playing the game without even hardly noticing the passage of time. I also know that I'm not alone in that experience. I know that I, as well as other players of The Sims, have oftentimes put things off that might have been actually very beneficial to me because I couldn't wait to hop onto The Sims and live out some more of my own fantasy life. Only sleep for 4 hours tonight? Well, of course, anything for The Sims. Mechanically, there are several factors at play here that kind of strengthen this addictive quality. For one, the game never ends. There's no inherent final goal, no credit screen to reach, no moment during which the player can stop and say, "Yep, I beat it, I'm all done." The Sims also has that infamous one more day design feature. Okay, one more day and then I'll put it up. Only for the end of that day to have something really cool happen, and you just have to know what's going to happen the next day, so then you say, okay, now, one more day for real, and then I'll put it up. And then the same thing keeps happening every single day, and suddenly you've been awake until 5 a.m. But we also have to remember that the harmful quality of this addiction that so many people experience with The Sims is ultimately in the player's hands. Or more specifically, in our mindset. Here's what I mean. The Sims is an excellent vehicle for escapism. It also allows us to live out our wildest as well as the most mundane fantasies, all while employing tried and true gameplay loops that keep us locked in. But the game also offers something very beneficial to the players that we haven't talked about yet, and all we have to do is look at the game more introspectively. So we've established that when we play The Sims, we're likely trying to create some kind of ideal scenario. Even if you're one of those players who isn't looking for any sort of wish fulfillment in the game, you are likely embracing the game's mechanics, accepting the challenge to optimize every aspect of your Sim's life. Optimization is the driving force of this game, after all. And when there's nothing left to accomplish, that's when the game kind of loses a lot of its charm. For the best experience, players always keep their Sims moving forward. That's pretty much how the game is played for anyone, no matter what their mindset is coming into it. This can be very addictive, for sure, but I think that there's a way that we can look at why we play The Sims and how we play The Sims and turn that into something that can benefit us in our real lives. If we find so much gratification in the constant flow of chores and skill points and relationships and so much more while playing The Sims, then why don't we apply the same mindset in reality? How many times have you canceled The Sims' automatic action to go watch TV or play a game on the computer so that they could instead go work on improving one of their skills or make some new friends or something like that? How many times have you made your Sims clean their house or run on a treadmill every day just because those are goals that you want your Sim to keep? What I'm getting at is this: why not use The Sims and how we play it to optimize the way that we live our own lives? What if each day you woke up and made some breakfast and then went about your day, improving your job performance and meeting new people and connecting with your friends, practicing your hobbies, working on projects, and keeping your space clean, all while managing your physical needs as if they were measured by simple meters on a screen? Instead of using The Sims purely as an escape to create your ideal self, why not also use it as an example of your own ideal situation? Follow your gameplay's lead in your own life, becoming the person that you want to become. Instead of just pretending to be yourself in a fictional world, why not also become your Sim self in the real world? So, The Sims is a simulation of the things that we do in our waking lives. You do chores just like in real life, you go to work, you take care of your responsibilities, work on your skills, and all that good stuff. But to answer very simply the question that this video is all about, that being how can a game focused on fulfilling your responsibilities be fun? How can it be an escape from responsibilities? It's because The Sims gamifies your life. It takes the hard parts out of the equation and replaces it with only the pleasurable parts of life. That is the Sims paradox. But if you can only take one thing away from this video, I would want it to be this. I think that by reversing the Sims paradox, we can escape the negative aspects of the addictive gameplay loop that The Sims is so well known for. What if, instead of putting your own life into The Sims and making it perfect, you instead use the way that you play The Sims to play your life? Gamify your life. And so that's gonna do it for this video, guys. And listen, thank you so much for watching. It always means the world to me, and you can bet your sweet bippy that there's going to be more stuff coming out from me. I'm still a fairly new creator. This is only my third full-length video on the channel, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that's subscribed, everybody that's been watching, and hey, if you want to be one of my subscribers, and you want to give me a like and a comment, and ring the bell and all that great stuff, man, I would be so happy. That would be so cool. But also, if you don't want to, then just don't. Like, that's fine. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And I'm also curious about something. I want to know, what are some of your most ridiculous stories of being just really addicted to The Sims? Because I could talk about it all day. There are so many times that I have not done the things I was supposed to do because I wanted to play The Sims, and so I didn't do them, and it didn't go well. I'm sure a lot of you can relate, and that's kind of what this video is all about, in a way. So yeah, thank you so much for having me and for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!